I'm Larry Vitez here on November 11th, 2025 with Spring Island founder and developer Jim Chaffin and Billy Sampson, who's been the friendly face of golf on Old Tabby for as long as I can remember, and one of the original members, Ed Mitchell. We're going to talk about the early days on Spring Island and specifically the development of Old Tabby. I have a series of questions to help get the conversation started and to jog their memories. And boy, do their memories need jogging. Thanks for joining me, and let's get started. So Jim, to begin with, tell us how you and your buddy Jim Light became friends and started this business.
Wow. Well, Jim Light and I became friends when I was a freshman at the University of Virginia, and he was in his second year at Chapel Hill. And he called my dorm counselor and told him he was recruiting guys to go sell Bibles door to door in the summertime. And could he come up and interview some people at Virginia? They had grown up together in Bluefield, West Virginia. When my dorm counselor asked me, I said, no, I'm on scholarship and working my way through here, and I've got a job in the summer. He said, well, you're your pledge class head. Take your pledge class to hear him. Well, I took my pledge class to listen to Jim Light, and I signed up. And so, anyway, Light and I worked together for several summers, and when I got out of the Army Medical Corps, he called me and said, Chafe, I've just discovered something really fun down here. You know, I was going back, I'd finished my MBA and I was going back for more graduate work, and he said, well, come on down here to Hilton Head, we'll play a little golf. I knew something was up because he didn't play golf at the time. But anyway, I went down and met him there and got enamored with what was going on at Sea Pines and with this guy, Charles Frazier, and went to work right there at Sea Pines, and that's how it started.
Perfect. All right. Tell us how you met Arnold Palmer.
I was just talking about arriving at Sea Pines. Yeah. And I was a young rookie there. I'd been there about 2 weeks in 1969 when the first Heritage golf tournament was being played. And Arnold and Winnie were arriving, and the head of the Sea Pines Company, Charles Frazier, asked me if I would show Arnold and Winnie around. So I toured them around Sea Pines as he was getting ready to play in the inaugural Heritage. Mm-hmm. Well, turned out he won the inaugural Heritage, and it made the front page of Sports Illustrated and it just put Harbortown on the map and Sea Pines, and it started a friendship that we just kept through the years. They would come to visit, and I would show them around, and then we just kept that relationship through the years.
And what was the first project, and what are some of the other projects you did with Arnold?
We did a project in Snowmass, Colorado, when we redid the Snowmass Golf Club there. He and Ed C. did. We got to be very good friends with Ed C. as well. He was introduced to us through a guy named Ebby Lemaster, who was the head of Ponte Vedra and eventually Sea Pines. But Ebby and Ed and Arnold redid our golf course in Snowmass. Eventually did our course at Semiahmoo in the Pacific Northwest. That was picked as the #1 Arnold Palmer golf course that year, or the #1 new golf course in the country that year, 1986. And he did Balsam Mountain Preserve in North Carolina for us, once we'd gotten back here. But I was sitting in, Betsy and I were sitting in the Walker house and having dinner. We'd just come here, and I get a phone call, and it's Arnold. He says, "Chafe, I just heard you got some property down here in the Hilton Head area. What are you doing?" I said, "Well, Arnold, is kind of unusual." He said, "Well, I'm over here on Hilton Head. I'm doing a golf course over here, and if you're doing one, I assume we're doing it." I said, "Well, Arnold, it's going to be quite different." And he said, "Well, let me come look at it." And I said, "You can't get here. There's no bridge." He said, "What?" I said, "No, there's no bridge yet. We're getting ready to build a bridge." He said, "I'm coming anyway. Ed and I'll be there tomorrow." He flies his helicopter over from Hilton Head, lands right over here in the where the ball field is right now, and gets out and we start riding around, and I sat down with them. They really liked it, and et cetera. And we had lunch there at the Walker House. By the way, thinking of the Walker House, the Walker family operated this place as a quail hunting preserve, and they served a drink called spring tea. Mm-hmm. And guess what? It was a mixture of iced tea and lemonade. Uh-huh. Arnold fell in love with it. Every time he'd come, we'd go out riding around, looking, working, whatever. He said, "Let me have some of that spring tea." Guess what that is today? It's called an Arnold Palmer, yeah. Worldwide. But he just was very enamored. We would ride around, and we'd see the old quail fields, and we would walk. Well, I'm sorry. You want me to keep going?
Well, I could get it's.
Go ahead with.
I want to ask you before about the development of the course, but first, where did the name Old Tabby come from?
From the Old Tabby ruins.
Mm-hmm. Whose idea was it to name the course Old Tabby?
Then, when Arnold was riding down that Oak Alley between St. Francis and Old Tabby, he was looking, and he looked out beyond that. He was standing there, and he said, "The 9th and 18th holes need to have a marsh view." Look at that view, looking all the way out to the ocean. Of course, he knew also down to the right was the place that he'd won the first Heritage Golf Tournament. And he said, 9 and 18 need to be on the marsh and in relationship to these Old Tabby ruins. And that's where the name Old Tabby Links evolved from.
That's wonderful. Tell us more about the discussions and in the design between you and Ed and Arnold, and who else may have been involved, and what were the most difficult decisions, or the ones you had to argue about?
Wow. Well, backing up for a moment,
Yeah.
there was the early question, which is interesting. Did we need a golf course? Why do we need a golf course? This was this was a community within a nature preserve.
Mm-hmm.
We were doing Kalawasi. We were developing Kalawasi Island, and a gentleman who had bought Spring Island got zoning for 5,000 units.
And I remember wanting to build a bridge from
and wanted an easement through Kalawasi to build a bridge. And he called us and asked us if we would sell him an easement. I said, we could use the cash. We'd be delighted to, but not for 5,000 units.
Mm-hmm.
How about 800 or 1,000 or something? And he never would agree to that. And he kept trying to get a bridge approved from the mainland or whatever, and never got it. So we went to the Walker family and said, here's our idea. But every time we bring a banker or an institution here, they think that Light and I are worn out. We've gotten just a little too tired, that we want to downzone. We've got 5,000. Come down here to Walker Landing and say, oh, look at these deep water lots. How many lots of condos you gonna have down here? Same thing down at the gazebo. And how many lots? And so we said to them, we're gonna need to do a different program. We can't get a financial institution to believe in this. And so we were able to get the Walker family to give us 6 to 9 months to put a founding member program together and bring in those first 36 founding members at $300,000 apiece. And to the Walker family's credit and to the founding members' credit, they believed in what we were doing, and that's how we got it started. And we thought about, other people and getting other people involved in designing it. We had thought about, in fact, we had already talked to Ben Crenshaw and Bill Coor.
That was going to be on the other side of the island.
Yeah. And we had talked to them about doing the golf. And when Arnold called, I said, well, Arnold, we're already talking to your buddy. And that's when he said, well, at least let me come look at it, et cetera, et cetera. So when Arnold got here, obviously, as it does with a lot of people, he got enamored with it. But back to why we did a golf course, because we were questioning whether or not to do a golf course. And we were using the phenomenal planner, Robert Marvin, and laying things out. But a highly regarded market research analyst said, look, Chaffin, this is a very nice idea that you guys have, but it's a pretty unique idea. And you're going to make this work. If you think you're going to do this and go find those people who all they want to do is see nature and go bird watching, et cetera, that's really stretching it. So doing a golf course that is in tune with the nature will broaden your market. That was a major decision on their part. So, and that's why we were saying, Arnold, this, you can't just do, because we've done other golf courses with it, you can't come and say it and say yes and wave your arms and da-da-da and come every 90 days or so and have Ed come every 30 days, but then have the other guys here more than that. Yeah. He said, what do you mean? I said, you got to be here once a month. And he looked at Ed C. and said, "Who?" Pooh said, "Arnold, this won't work." Why? We're already doing 17 golf courses right now. I mean, there's no way in hell you can do this. Arnold said, "I'm in." He was committed, and to his credit, I would say Arnold was here at least every 5 or 6 weeks to walk around, and he would see, as I said, he said, "Okay, we got to bring 9 and 18 in here," and we looked at the island of 17 out there, and we were frankly concerned we couldn't even touch it because it was a huge archaeological site, historical archaeological site of Native American tribes that had used it. So there really wasn't a whole lot of stuff you could do to unearth it. You could just lay the green on top of it. We didn't take away many trees there at all. But Arnold really wanted to be involved here, and he came very often. And like, you take the 12th hole, that par 5, okay? Mm-hmm. There's a big, beautiful live oak in the middle of the fairway. And
it'd be a lot taller if we hadn't hit it somewhere.
And my buddy Ed C. said, "Arnold, we probably got to take that oak tree down out in the field down there." And Arnold said, "No, that's part of the personality of this hole. That's part of the personality of this hole. People got to figure out a way to get around it. And that's why we call it Arnie's Oak." But he got, you can imagine with the number of courses they were doing, and he was pulled in a lot of dirt, but he truly got it. He was enamored by the place. And he said, let me say, he said, "Spring Island is nature in the purest environmental sense. We will leave it that way. With the surrounding marsh, the Colleton River, and these great oak trees, this course will be a showcase of natural beauty." That doesn't sound like Arnold, but it was Arnold. Exactly what he said, and he delivered it. He and Winnie loved it here. They bought a lot on the 18th fairway, and they brought their children and their daughters and grandchildren loved coming here. And guess what? Arnold loved to go quail hunting. He would come. We got pictures of him in his quail jacket with his shotgun. So it was more than just a design relationship with him. He really cared about the place.
Well, that's wonderful. Had a golf course within nature been designed or built elsewhere that you know of before Old Tabby?
I wasn't that. I'm sure there had been. I just wasn't. I mean, I thought about places where you feel like you're in nature. There are great golf courses that don't have a lot of residential around them, although what had happened to golf is that it had gone from being built purely for the golf to being built to sell real estate. But if you think of places like Pine Valley, for instance, that's very natural because there's very little residential involved there.
Jim, for my benefit, were the opening of the bridge and the golf course, Were they very close together?
Great question. In 1991, the bridge was completed to Spring Island, and the bridge ceremony was actually, the opening ceremony was actually October 5th, 1991, and then that bridge opening to just pay recognition to the history. There was a mule wagon driven over the bridge by Gordon Mobley with his daughters and Betsy and me. But the planting was well underway even before the bridge. I mean, they would come by boat. They would come by boat here and they'd take everything down there. Obviously, once the bridge was complete, it was much easier for them to do. But the bridge was open in 1991, and the golf course was under construction at that time.
You remember the date that the first round was played?
The first round was played in April 19th, 1993, was when Arnold Palmer christened the Old Tabby Links. And the dedication of the Old Tabby was a festive opening, a celebration. It took 18 months to build it, but it was April 19th, 1993. And Craig Lehman became the first golf pro and the first clubhouse on April 19th. The first clubhouse was a single wide trailer along the first hole.
Matter of fact, the power pole's still there if you ever want to go find it.
That's right. Yeah, right. You go on the way on it. Yeah. And it's really interesting to think there was that trailer there. Now, think about the first clubhouse for a moment.
Jim, you know, your friend Ed here, he told me that you told him in 1991 that the no-see-ums were only here a couple of weeks a year.
That was true. When there were only 4 or 5 of us here. But once all the honey was brought in here, once you filled it up with human beings, the word got out to the same. The word got out.
So, Ed, all right, you want to add to that?
How can you top that? I mean, that's the best comeback I've ever heard about that one.
All right, now
let me just finish.
Yeah, go ahead.
In 1994, we had our first annual member guest, and it was a great success. The members brought in friends, and a significant number of those guests would arrive here saying, what are you thinking? Worse. They would play the golf course, they would get a feeling for the place. An amazing percentage of those first guests at the first member guest became members. That then became something called the fall party. And it was very touching to Betsy and I after turnover, 2 years after the turnover of the community to the members, that's when the board called the fall party the Chaffin Cup. That was very touching to us. But Craig Lehman was the first golf pro. He then went into, the real estate, selling of real estate. Darren Howard succeeded him as head pro, and he brought in the sunshine.
It's just like the no-see-em.
He brought in Bill Sampson, who at that time was at Sea Pines, where Jim Light and I had started our career. So it was really wonderful for us. So here we were coming full circle that our pro was coming from Sea Pines, and he was the head pro here for 20 years. Yeah.
20. He's been the face of golf here forever.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
so-
And of course, then he very unselfishly, based on his reputation as a golf teacher and instructor, could have left here and established his own destination, but he stayed with us here and has continued to teach.
There are 30 or 40 ponds on the island. Talk a little bit about the work you did to enhance existing ponds and new ones that were constructed during the development.
If you look on the perimeter, there are 10 palms on the perimeter. Those were mostly created by the Walker family because Elisha Walker's first love was hunting.
Yeah.
And so he created these ponds to attract waterfowl for duck hunting, goose hunting.
Yeah.
And of course, we built Goose Pond in the middle of the island. That was right in the middle of the island where large old cotton fields were, and marshlands. There were marsh and cotton and created neighborhoods around Goose Pond, and of course the golf course ponds that were part of Arnold and Ed Seed, creating natural feeling water hazards on the golf course.
Okay. Is Star Mountain really the dirt from the Goose Ponds?
Yes.
Just wanted to get that one out.
Yes, it is. Star Mountain is the dirt from the Goose Ponds.
All right. Jim, tell us how your relationship with your mentor, Charles Frazier, impacted the development of this island.
Charles had a philosophy that stuck with us through the years, that you take the best you have and you give it to everyone. Our feeling was that if you had a community within a nature preserve, where were the gathering spots? And Walker Landing was the community gathering spot here. And so this needed to be for everyone. And Bonnie Shore was a place that historically the Walker family had done crab boils and oyster roast. And it was in a beautiful little orchard down on the deep water. And that needed to be there for everyone, so that families, even to this day, go down there and do their crab boils and their oyster roast.
But I want to ask either Billy or you, Jim, to just talk a minute or two about when Bill Clinton was here golfing.
Bubba.
Okay, Dennis Bakke was one of our members at the time, and Mr. Bakke walked in my office, and I had just taken over as the head golf professional. It was in 1996. And Mr. Bakke came and said, I would like to bring a guest at the end of December. And I said, Mr. Bakke, you can always bring a guest. You're a member, you can always bring a guest. He goes, you may want to know who this is. I said, well, who is it? He goes, President Bill Clinton. And I said, well, then we need to call Jim Chaffin. So I called Mr. Chaffin and said, Dennis Bakke wants to bring the president out to play golf, which was a big deal.
Yeah.
Because that means we're shutting the golf course right around the holidays, part of the day. And So it was during Renaissance Week on Hilton Head's the reason he came over, and Mr. Chaffin said yes, and so we all got credentials through Secret Service to be able to be with the president. But Mr. Chaffin was he and Betsy and myself were standing in the parking lot when the president pulled up and the motorcade pulled up. They'd taken over the security gate.
Yeah.
They had security people everywhere. We couldn't see them. And so the three of us stood there and talked, and then we went to the first tee. And that's when Jake got to introduce the president to play golf here. And it was fascinating to do. And there were a few members around, but what was special about that day is no matter what your political views are, you're with the president of the United States.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the first hole, and I still have the golf ball, he opened up a sleeve of balls, and they were Wilson balls. And there was a piece out of one of the golf balls. And he threw me the golf ball, and he goes, "Pro, have you ever seen this before?" And that's when I gave him a sleeve of Titleist balls with the Old Tabby Links logo on them. And I said, "Well, this is what you should be playing." And I didn't know I was supposed to be with him all day. And he goes, "Why aren't you with me?" And so I rode with the president the rest of the day, and Chafe was with us all day. And Chafe played, I played. I mean, it was just a special, special day to play golf. Chafe may have a different story on it.
Who else was in that force?
Mr. Bakke, and then a gentleman that was in there. This is funny, and Jim Chaffin has only fired, I think, one person in his life, and it was the guy that was in the group. But it was a really special day, I think, for all of us.
Oh yeah.
We were on, headline news. They had still photos of us on headline news, and Spring Island was talked about a lot. And the president, he never came back to play, but there were people that came to play that he had sent here.
That he had sent.
Yeah.
And the time with him, it was very unpretentious.
Yes.
You would have, if you didn't know who he was, you would have had no idea he was the president of the United States. He was just
a
golfer.
Yeah,
he was just
a golfer.
another golfer.
We were on the fourth hole, and he leaned over to me and he goes, "Bro, what do you see I'm doing in my swing?" And I told him what I saw, and he laughed and he goes, "Greg Norman told me the same thing last week." And I said, he was just telling stories, and he was the whole group was nice to us though. And what a lot of people don't know is that same year, the summer of that year, Chaffin approved doing a movie over here, which the movie was called Last Dance, with Sharon Stone, Rob Morrow, and Randy Quaid. And they did the golf scenes of the movie here on 15 and 16. So we had a movie and the president in the same year.
Wow. Great. Well, that's wonderful. All right, you guys, I think we should wrap it up. I'm going to ask Jim one more question from his Bible selling days, and that's if he can still recite the insects of the Bible. It's okay if you can't.
Okay. Well, what he's talking about is we were trained, we were selling these one-volume big family Bibles, or as I call it, home religious libraries. But we had samples. We knocked on doors, and you went through saying, "And here, this is what this book is about." Everything from the Old Testament, the New Testament, etc. But there's a topical index. Oh, there are children's stories in the back. And by the way, there is a Bible dictionary here. Oh, what does that mean? Oh, well, if you wanted to look up, for instance, something like insects of the Bible, you just go right over here ant, bee, beetle, cankerworm, caterpillar, flea, fly, gnat, grasshopper, hornet, horse, fleece, life, locust, and moth. Right here.
All right, that is a good place to end. Thank you.
Some things you stick forever.
Oh, they do, don't they?